good at checking its own work, especially as the things we ask our models to build become more complex. My name is SQ, and I work on training the models to be better at web development, app development, anything that really requires some sort of user experience. Today, we're talking about the launch of our new model, GPT-5.4 Thinking, and two of its app development-related capabilities. One, it's its ability to use CUA, or computer use, and two, it's its ability to make great websites using an image input. When we ask the model to use CUA compared to 5.3 Codex, it doesn't have to spin up like a new environment to do it. It's more like how you or I would interact with a computer. With persistent CUA, we're seeing in some cases when we ask the model to test its own work, that the token use has actually dropped by 2/3, which is quite exciting. So I brought some examples to show today. I'm going to open Codex, I'm going to use GPT-5.4 Thinking, and I'm going to use the high reasoning level. Build and test a 3D chess game, Electron app. I'm going to add just a little bit of more of a challenge for the model as well, and ask it to make two effects, glass and marble. It's cooking. This is a challenging use case for CUA because there's so many pieces. You have to click the right pieces. Are like reflections working? The model needs to have a good sense of like all the rules and then how like manipulating those pieces will lead to a state where you can actually test out those rules. Like castling, for instance, right? Where do you drag the king or the rook to get it to the right place where it'll actually castle correctly? That was castling that just happened. That was en passant. What is it doing now? So CUA is clicking through the game and moving the pawn on the other side. It's actually playing the game. We're building software for humans to use, and humans use software with user interfaces. And so we want the model to be able to check its own work like a human would. The second thing I want to talk about is website replication, and in particular, image gen and image search. My partner, Nancy, has always wanted to start her own coffee shop. She's not a coder, and so she gave me a design that she wanted for her website, and we're going to use Codex and 5.4 Thinking to make that into a reality. For this example, I'm using Codex, but it works just as well in ChatGPT. The model is better able to understand the context of the design, like what kind of images that actually would be most appropriate given the style, and will prompt ImageGen to make images that are more in line and aesthetically cohesive. So right now it's calling the ImageGen tool, and it has a smart use of ImageGen as well because images take a while to generate. So it's actually doing all four of these images concurrently, which is pretty neat. Now the model is able to check its own work using CUA. What CUA did here is like open up the image, inspect it, open up the website, also look at it, compare them side by side, and make sure that the website created is as close as possible to the image that I put. With this update, it makes the work a lot cheaper, a lot more efficient, and also ultimately helps you do better work.
Managing and growing your SOC 2 program is a journey. And there's two ways to travel. The manual way, filled with spreadsheets.
China just dropped a 1 trillion parameter AI model. And the crazy part is, it actually became faster and smarter after deleting 1/3 of itself. This thing is now beating some of the biggest AI systems on Earth in real-world tasks. So what exactly did they build here? All right, so the model is called Yuan 3.0 Ultra, developed by a group called Yuan Lab AI, and it's built using a system called Mixture of Experts, which has quietly become one of the most important architectures in modern AI. Now, the first number you'll hear about this model sounds crazy. Yuan 3.0 Ultra has roughly 1 trillion parameters in total, with about 68.8 billion parameters activated when it runs. That already puts it in the same scale category as some of the largest models in the world. But the real story here is actually the opposite of what people usually expect. Normally, AI models keep getting bigger. Bigger networks, more GPUs, more compute. That's been the pattern for years. Yuan Lab did something different. They started with an even bigger model and then cut a huge part of it away while training it. The original version of Yuan 3.0 Ultra had around 1,500.
GPT 5.4 is here, and we may actually have a new best model on the planet. I've been using it for the past week. I got early access, and yes, it is an incredible model. And what OpenAI did to get to 5.4 feels very similar to what Anthropic did to get to Opus 4.6, and they're all heading in the same direction. These are models built for real-world knowledge work. These are models built for agentic tasks. And I'm going to tell you everything about it. I got a couple demos I want to show off to you. And this just might be my new main model in OpenClaw. And let me explain why. So we have Opus 4.6, and it is a good model. What makes it so good is that it is not only a world model, but it is incredibly good at writing code. So we have world knowledge, we have logic and reasoning, we have a great personality. And yes, the personality really does matter, especially if you're plugging it into your personal AI assistant, aka OpenClaw. And of course, it's incredibly good at code. It's incredibly incredibly good at agent work. It's great at browser use. It's great at computer use. And all of these things it is very, very good at. But OpenAI did not have that. GPT 5.2 was good at a lot of things. And Codex was really good at coding, but they were separate models. And if you wanted to use one for both use cases, you really couldn't. You had to choose one or the other for the appropriate use case. So we had coding over here. That is what GPT 5.3 Codex was all about. And it was really good at coding. But if you wanted a personality, if you wanted writing and creativity, you went to 5.2. But remember, Opus had all of those things built into a single model. And that is where GPT 5.4 comes in. So they basically said, okay, 5.2 and GPT 5.3 Codex, go ahead, have a baby, and we're going to call it GPT 5.4. And this is their new frontier, flagship, everything model. It is good at coding. It has a personality. It's good at creative writing. It's good at tool calling. It's good at agentic use cases. You can plug it in as your main model in OpenClaw. GPT 5.4 has everything. And not only that, they made it faster. They made it more token efficient, all of this baked into a single model that can serve many use cases now. And remember when Sonnet 4.6 came out and I said this was specifically built to serve knowledge workers? Well, that's kind of what 5.4 is now. It is incredibly good at things that you would maybe do with Claude Cowork, reading PDF documents, creating PowerPoints, searching the web, using the browser, using the computer. All of these things can now be done with 5.4 really well. And here's the thing. Here's that last part that the Claude family of models now had that the OpenAI models did not. We had 1 million tokens of context. Great. But now so does GPT 5.4. And that is huge. Now, it's not cheap to use all this, but I'll get to that in a moment. All right, so two models were dropped. We have 5.4 Thinking and 5.4 Pro, and they put together a nice chart so we can compare the benchmarks against obviously the older OpenAI models, but also for the first time in a while, they actually included Anthropic and Google models. So here we go, OS world, this is computer use. We have 75% for GPT 5.4 Thinking as compared to 74% GPT 5.3 Codex, so a tiny bump. And look over here, Opus 4.6, 72.7. We have SweBench Pro, 57.7% on Thinking. We have 56.8, so it is actually getting a better score than the Codex specific model, and no score for Opus, but we have a 54.2 for Gemini 3.1 Pro. Now, it kind of sucks these companies are kind of picking and choosing which benchmarks they're running against because then it makes it very difficult to compare them. All right, next we have GDP-Val, which is OpenAI's own benchmark measuring real world knowledge work. So the ability for these models to actually complete real knowledge work, things that will actually move the GDP of the country. Now, even though it is OpenAI's own benchmark, other companies do use it and run their models against it. So what do we see? Well, we have an 83% for GPT 5.4 Thinking, which is interesting because GPT 5.4 Pro, which is technically the smarter model and much more expensive, actually gets a lower score. Now look at this versus 5.3 Codex, it is 13 points higher, and on Opus 4.6, which scored a 78, it is 5 points higher than that. It also dominated at frontier math as well. And by the way, if you want to test the latest models and use it in an OpenClaw-like environment, but don't want to worry about all the headache of setting up OpenClaw yourself, go check out the sponsor of today's video, Lindy. I know the entire world is talking about OpenClaw, but OpenClaw is not yet for the entire world. It still takes a ton of handholding, a ton of security mindfulness. And personally, I spent 5 billion tokens so far just getting it to a really good place. So there has to be a better solution for everyone. And that is where the sponsor of today's video comes in, Lindy. They've been a great partner, so I'm excited to tell you about them. If you've been running your own agents, you know the drill. Whether you're spending $600 on your own Mac Mini, hundreds of dollars in token costs every month, or constantly having to handhold them, it can be easier. And Lindy just eliminated all of that. But this isn't just for casual users. This is for hardcore automations as well. Lindy has built a personal AI assistant for people running complex workflows. It meets you wherever you are. iMessage, email, Slack, Notion, Gmail, Google Drive, and it integrates with over 100 apps and learns the way you like to work. Check out Lindy's AI assistant. I'll drop a link down below. They've been a fantastic partner, so go check them out. It helps the channel when you let them know I sent you. Now, back to the video. So according to the blog post, GPT 5.4 brings together the best of our recent advances in reasoning, coding, and agentic workflows into a single frontier model. So just like I said, it incorporates the industry-leading coding capabilities of 5.3 Codex while also improving how the model works across tools, software environments, and professional tasks involving spreadsheets, presentations, and documents. Also, GPT 5.4 Thinking can now provide an upfront plan of its thinking. So it's not just going to start and go. One of the most useful features in something like Cursor is the fact that you can plan first. And it just allows you to guide the model rather than burning all those tokens, actually building the thing and potentially going in the wrong direction. You can turn on the little plan feature right here and it will plan instead of build. And now that's built into ChatGPT. So as I said, it's really good at computer use and it also has incredible vision capabilities. And obviously those two things go hand in hand. So it's excellent at writing code to operate computers via libraries like Playwright, as well as issuing mouse and keyboard commands in response to screenshots. And so look at this OS World verified benchmark. And OS World is basically giving these models an operating system in which they can operate them. So on the x-axis, we have the number of tool yields, the tool calls, and on the y-axis, we have the accuracy. So really what you want is to be high up in this top left corner because that means you have the highest accuracy with the fewest tool calls. And that is a good thing. Fewer tool calls, less tokens, cheaper, more efficient. So as we see, GPT 5.2 is over here and we can see the accuracy tops out at about a little under 50% with 42 tool yields. Now look over here, GPT 5.4, much more efficient and better, topping out at 75%. 15 tool yields and just much more efficient than 5.2. All right, so here's an example of it using Gmail. So we can see the little cursor right there. It's going to click over to send. It's going to look at its sent emails. It can star them quite well. It labels them, puts each of the emails into the label. It can create calendar invites. All of this is super useful. But you know what needs to actually catch up is the websites and the publishers themselves who generally block agentic use of their websites, right? They don't want scrapers and so they block stuff like this. But hopefully the publishers catch up. So here it is writing an email, sending the email. Yeah, just super impressive. Here's bulk data entry. So we have what looks to be a JSON object and it's basically just just extracting it from that and putting it in here very quickly. And by the way, if you look up in the top right, you can actually see the timestamp, and it looks to be going at real-time speed. That's kind of insane. So this is not sped up at all if you are to believe this timestamp up here. All right, and so they gave a few demos of things that GPT 5.4 built, and it's incredible. This is possibly one of the best demos I've ever seen. So this is a theme park simulation game. Look at this. So you can see it has the speed up here. You can make things faster or slower. You can design the park. All of the assets are created. The little people walking around are obviously just little circles, so very simplistic, but all of the logic, your funds, your guests, your happiness, cleanliness, park rating, all of these things are built in. Look at all of this. You choose what you want. You can place a new Ferris wheel. You can place a new carousel. People go to it. So impressive. And it says the simulation game was made with 5.4 from a single lightly specified prompt, meaning you didn't have to give it a highly detailed prompt. Next is an RPG game, kind of a very 2D 90s style RPG game, and it looks excellent. All of the assets are beautiful. You can see all the little characters here. We have attack, end turn. Yeah, so very, very cool. All right, last, and I hope you're sitting down. This is going to be a little bit painful, the pricing. So we have GPT 5.2, $1.75 per million input tokens now for 5.4, $2.50. Frontier Intelligence seems to be getting more expensive, not less. 5.2 Pro, $21 per million tokens. Oh, now it's $30 per million input tokens. And similarly, the output price, it's only slightly more on the output price, so $14 as compared to $15 for the new 5.4 model, and for 5.4 Pro, it's $180 per million output tokens versus $168 per million output tokens for 5.2 Pro. But these are expensive models, don't get me wrong. You can save a lot of money by caching the input, but really the output is going to be very expensive regardless of what you do. All right, so like I said, you're probably going to want to test this model out in OpenClaw. So use it as your primary model, and the way to do that is simply to tell OpenClaw to do it. It's really not that difficult. But here's the thing. Here's the really important thing to remember. The way that you prompt GPT 5.4 is very different than the way that you prompt Opus and Claude models in general. So what you're going to want to do is look for the latest prompting guide for 5.4 and here to rewrite the prompts or create two sets of prompts specifically for 5.4 and Opus separately. And it seems like we're getting new models almost every week at this point. I mean, some of my team just got GPT 5.3 Codex. Now we're getting GPT 5.4. We had Opus 4.6 right after Opus 4.5. We had Sonnet 4.6. These models are coming at lightning speed, and there's a reason. Both of these companies, Anthropic and OpenAI, have completely figured out their pre-training cycle, meaning these models are going to continue. They're just baking in the oven, and every time they think they have enough progress, they ship a version of it. They basically cut it off and they say, all right, let's ship it to the public. And it's super exciting. And don't forget, just less than a year ago, OpenAI was really not doing well on the pre-training front. They released GPT 4.5, which was actually a really good model, but it was massive and slow and expensive to run. And so there were a lot of problems with it. They ended up retiring it, or I think it's still available, but basically people don't use it all that much. And now the entire 5.0 family of models from OpenAI are fantastic, and they keep coming. They're efficient, they're fast, they're great. So congratulations to OpenAI. Now, the last thing I want to go over is a couple of industry reactions. Matt Schumer has had access to GPT 5.4, similar to me, over the past week, and these are his thoughts. So his general takeaway, it is the best model on the planet by far, which is a big statement. He said he primarily used pro models and not anymore. 5.4 thinking is sufficient for all of his use cases, more than sufficient. The coding capabilities are ridiculous. It's essentially flawless. That is definitely an overstatement. It is not flawless, but it is excellent. Inside Codex, it's insanely reliable. I can attest to this. That's where I've been testing it myself. Now, it still does have some problems that he points out. Front-end taste is far behind Opus 4.6 and Gemini 3.1 Pro. It also can still miss obvious real-world context. So his example is, I had it plan an itinerary for a trip. At first glance, it looked perfect, but it failed to take into account that it chose locations that would be mobbed by spring breakers. So I had to rerun the prompt from scratch with more context. And number 3, within OpenClaw, it kept stopping short before finishing tasks. Okay, these things should be fixed quite quickly. In fact, Sam Altman just reposted this saying, yes, we're going to fix those immediately. Flavio Adamo, also an early tester, was very impressed. Check this out. I've been testing it in early access. It has a 1 million token context window, #1 on Sweetbench. Okay, we had a big Avely update planned for late March because a few parts of the site were still too time consuming to pull off with previous models, and it basically one-shotted them within Codex 5.4 did. So he says, yes, it is excellent. Peter Steinberger, of course, OpenAI employee now, so take it with a grain of salt, but he also says it's a very good model. The coding specific jump is more in line what we had in 5.0 to 5.1, but now it's unified and smarter on everything else. It writes better docs. It is a better general purpose agent and overall more pleasant to use. And I will also be testing that in OpenClaw. I need to know if it's the right vibes. Does it have the right personality? And I suspect it does. So that's it. It is an incredible model. I'm going to be testing it thoroughly. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
Stop learning agentic AI for free. Here is how to land your first 1 lakh rupees client.
Software engineering has changed dramatically in 2026, and over the past few months, my opinion on AI as it relates to software engineering and the job market has changed as well. Now, in this video, I want to go through 5 major shifts that I've seen recently and what I believe this means for the future of software development. And the first shift that I've noticed is that no one writes code anymore. No one is actually sitting there typing out hundreds of thousands of lines of code. The new models, especially your Opus and your Codex models, are insanely good, they're extremely fast, and they produce so much code that it really becomes more of a burden to review the code than it does to simply produce it. And that's really what I want to focus on in this point, is that while these AI models have gotten increasingly better and better, and they're going to continue to improve, we're kind of at the point where the bottleneck is no longer how good is the AI model and how fast can it produce the code. It's much more how much code can you actually review and understand as a human being. I don't know about you guys, but I can't sit there and read a 10,000 line pull request and deeply understand all of the decisions that were made, know if all of the code is clean and correct and accurate, and build that kind of deep domain expertise and knowledge that I would traditionally have about a code base that I'm working on. When I was working on my startup 2 or 3 years ago, I wrote 95% of the code by hand, maybe a few functions.
Managing and growing your SOC 2 program is a journey. And there's 2 ways to travel: the manual way
I spent this week tracking every major AI announcement, and honestly, it was hard to keep up. OpenAI launched GPT-5.4 with actual computer use built in. DeepSeek is about to drop their brand new version 4 model, and Anthropic got banned by the Pentagon, but it led to a huge increase in the amount of users and subscribers, and Cursor just hit $2 billion in annualized revenue. Let's jump into these stories. All right, so we're starting off with a late Thursday announcement, which is GPT-5.4. OpenAI launches GPT-5.4 with Pro and Thinking versions. This is their official artwork, by the way. And it says, on Thursday, OpenAI released GPT-5.4, a new foundation model built as our most capable and efficient frontier model for professional work. 5.4. Context window available. I only gave 3 prompts in this example, but 2 that were kind of niche. One was, I think, easy to solve. One was a little bit more difficult. Performed way worse than I work with data all the time in spreadsheets. DeepSeek is a cheaper model, and it tends to get a lot of hype based around how cheap it is to specifically run. Okay, next is going to be Anthropic. Anthropic had a big update where they brought memory to Claude's free plan, and they also had integration where you could take past conversations and bring them in over this particular video as well. In fact, you're going to learn a lot more about cowork. We actually have quite a few different videos already on the channel, full course. One is reportedly some companies getting funding last week. This week, Cursor hit a revenue number. Cool. Let's jump into another Anthropic.
Managing and growing your SOC 2 program is a journey. And there's 2 ways to travel.
Yeah, Anthropic might be in trouble. OpenAI just dropped GPT-5.4 and it's good across the board. So as Sam Altman says, it's available now in the API and codecs, and it's rolling out to ChatGPT, starting with the Pro users, then Plus users, and then everyone else. Now let's look at the benchmarks, because this model is more impressive than I thought. First off, Opus will verify this is computer use. It beats Opus 4.6 by 2.3%. Not that crazy. Next we have web browsing, also better than Opus 4.6, which is in this column. GDP-val, this is the valuable knowledge tasks, stuff that actually people do, companies pay for. 5% difference is pretty substantial on this benchmark. Now notice that the thinking version is more powerful than the Pro version here. Very interesting. But when it comes to agentic browsing, GPT-5.4 Pro, which by the way is a complete beast, and I started querying on this to show you how powerful it is in a second. We'll get to that. This one completely crashes on the browser comp agentic browsing benchmark. Again, 5.3% above Opus 4.6. On SW Event Pro, I have no idea why Opus 4.6 isn't ranked, but GPT-5.4 thinking is better than GPT-5.3 codecs. So later in the video, I'll also show you how it looks in the codecs app. We're going to see how powerful GPT-5.4 is with the extra high reasoning effort at coding. Now, when it comes to GPQA Diamond, this is Google-proof question and answer, expert scientific reasoning. GPT-5.4 crushes Opus. This is a big jump. 3% here is a big deal. But look at Gemini 3.1 Pro. It's pretty similar. Not that big of a jump compared to Gemini 3.1 Pro. We're going to test it in ChatGPT as well, but just look at this. This is ArcAGI 2, one of the most famous benchmarks in the world, and we can see that GPT-5.4 Pro lands very close to Gemini 3.1 Pro. Actually, this is the deepfake version, so it's not quite state-of-the-art at this benchmark. It's almost to the deepfake version, but keep in mind, this benchmark is heavily focused on images, and that's where Google has a massive advantage with their data set. So I would say this is still a very, very impressive result for OpenAI. Now, you might be thinking, okay, David, but what can it actually do? Benchmarks are cool and all, but let's see what GPT-5.4 can produce. So here's what Samuel did. He wanted to take the entire Premier League this season into a 30-second of visual bliss. Now, the reason why this is a good prompt is because it needs to use real-world data, right? The current Premier League season is not really in the training set of the data. That's the issue with a lot of these benchmarks. If the data is available throughout the internet freely and for a long time, the companies can train on that data, and then it really doesn't say how powerful the model is. But something like this, it needs to do a lot of web search and a lot of research to produce it. So that's the first variable. But the second thing, as you can see, is the visuals. And man, the visuals here are pretty crazy. So let's look at it. And again, the prompt is just create visual bliss. And we have the motion of the Premier League, which personally, I don't know if this is correct. If you watch football, you can confirm if this is correct, the rankings, but we could presume that it's based on web search data, and the graphic is very, very nice. Like, think how long you would take this, create this manually, right? Yeah, very nice, very impressive, especially since it's grounded in real-time web search data. And not only that, OpenAI actually added it into codecs with the /fast mode. So when you're inside of codecs, you can do /fast, boom, to turn on fast mode, so you can speed up inference. Now, obviously, this will cost a bit more, but if you don't care, and if you just want to use the same model with 1.5x speed, like for example, I'm on the $200 a month plan, right? I never hit the limits inside of codecs, even with running multiple agents in parallel. So /fast is just more inference. So if you have the money, if you have the budget, make sure to turn this on. It's a no-brainer. And again, we're going to test this model inside of codecs in a second, because I want to see for myself how powerful it is at one-shotting and whether it's really better than Opus, which also we're going to test Opus on some questions, not just coding. We're going to do creative writing, we're going to do politics, visual reasoning, all of that. But before we compare GPT-5.4 to Opus 4.6, I want to tell you about my accelerator. This is for people who want to build or scale an AI business. So if you're serious about AI and if you want to build a real company that's actually profitable, make sure to apply. Inside of the accelerator, I work with you for 6 months to help you scale your AI business so that eventually you can sell it just like I do the Vectel, which I managed to get acquired for 1.8 million just 14 months after founding. So if you have an AI business and you want to scale it, make sure to apply. It's going to be the first link below the video. Now back to GPT-5.4. Now actually, if you pay attention, there's 2 versions, right? There's a 5.4 thinking and 5.4 Pro. This one is only available for people who have ChatGPT Pro, which is obviously $200 a month subscription. And this model is a beast. Here it ran 20 minutes, right? So this model is like the most detailed deep research out there, maybe only rivaled by Gemini 3.1 deepfake, which I can show you. And again, this is I think only available for people on the Ultra plan, which is also $200 a month. So if you have the Ultra plan, you can do here Pro, Pro and tools and select where is it? Deepfake. And this will run for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And it's basically a parallel test time compute product from Gemini, similar to ChatGPT. This was first time with 01 Pro, that was the first product. Now there's GPT-5.4 Pro, which is the latest version. And boy, I tested it on something very current, something that actually interests me and probably will interest a lot of you, to see how good it is at creating a World War III preparation guide. And the answer is very, very thorough. Now we're going to do 2 different tests, right? So first of all, it ran for 20 minutes and it checked hundreds of sources. So that's the first test. You can see like the sources for each. So like 1 of 6, 1 of 8 here. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the summarization skills of GPT-5.4 versus Opus 4.6. So I'm going to copy the results. I'm going to go into Opus and say text, boom, paste the whole thing, /text, wrap it in XML text. This is a pro tip for context engineering. I'm going to say, give me a super concise TLDR of the text above. I'm going to copy the whole thing. I'm I'm going to send it. And inside of ChatGPT, I'm going to do thinking, not pro, because that would run for another 20 minutes. I'm just going to do standard thinking and paste the whole same prompt and run it. Now we're going to compare the summarization skills. So first, I would say this is a very detailed search report. And honestly, I think the prompt is pretty good. I prepared with Opus. So let me read that before you can judge how good it is at deep research as well as summarization. So the prompt is create a comprehensive, actionable, word-for-free preparation guide, assuming the gives you 3 days of survival basics, under 10k adds mobility and power, 50k buys you second amazing software. It's all possible. It's all possible to build. And again, we're going to build that. Finish responding. I'm going to read it and I'm going to give you my and decide what matters most. That made it close. Next up is this is going to be politics, aka geopolitics. And I'm going to say, give me analysis that can involve keep surprised. But this is a pretty objective assessment. Okay, I'm surprised. Let's see if GPT answering this political question. So the benchmarks aren't everything, guys. Like this is why everything 3 points towards Opus, 1 point towards GPT-5.4. Now let's look at the coding. Which model is better at building software? .io, the game. Make it look as close as to the original as possible and make sure to add all of the core game mechanics. And then tell me, okay, I think that's good enough. I don't want to give it too many hints and too many details. And again, this is the beauty of Codex. You can run multiple functions in parallel, right? This guy is running, building the AI Interact app, split into 4 separate tasks. Let's see what's happening. We have the files, and we can look at the repo on the right. We don't see the folder structure like we would see in IDE, but we should see the, okay, whatever, we can ls nothing. Let's look at these folders. There's nothing yet in these folders. Wow, they're still empty. Okay. Let's see how long this thinks. I'm kind of curious to see how long Codex will think here. That's why I said high, because I don't want it to be running for 30 minutes, because you can easily do that. But for the sake of this video, I want it to be faster. Oh, it's trying to clone it. Okay, this is cheating. This is cheating. I'm going to do my prompt. I mentioned it cannot clone the repo. That's wild. Okay, let's do medium. You cannot clone the GitHub repo. You have to build it yourself from scratch. Okay. Let's see if it did anything here. No, it's empty. That's good. All right, that was cheating, trying to clone the GitHub repository because it's an open source game. But whatever. Let's go back here. Are we building the AI job? Okay, so it's a bunch of web search, right? White House data, BLS government, AI. But also then you can use AI less. So right, for most ambitious people, you're gonna go where AI can be a beast, right? You can see like people like the creators of Cursor are billionaires, right? Many startups are in the coding space, business space, finance space. That's where like there's the most upside. This is the high risk, high reward. So the blue isn't bad. The blue frontier doesn't mean it's bad. It's just high risk, high reward. If you're a beast, if you're an entrepreneur that's like a killer, you're gonna make billions of dollars. But if you're not, you're gonna get replaced and you're gonna be struggling to find a job in the next 2 years. If you want a safe life and if you want to take care of a family and you want to stress much, then these industries is where you should be looking to position yourself within the next 5 to 10 years. So again, high risk, high reward, low risk, low reward. Or like medium reward, whatever. You get the point. Okay, wait, is this finished? Back terminal curl open from assets. So it's stealing the assets, but it cannot. Is it trying to get the repo? Live construction deployed site. Wait. Is it still trying to steal the repo? Wait, did you still steal the original code or no? It's asking if I want to multiplayer game. Okay, whatever. Say start with single player for now and some bots that have simple NPC logic. Okay, so it ran for like 2 minutes before asking me that question. I would have liked it to ask it sooner than 2 minutes, but whatever. Okay, let's see what's happening here. Still doing web search. It spent like 4 minutes on web search or something. It's pretty crazy. Imagine if you put actually on that set. These models are much more. Okay, I'm getting destroyed by these NPCs. I don't know how to play. Let me read what it said. First of all, I'll say make sure the game doesn't start right away. Add some simple button to launch it. How does the second one work? Default mode, reasoning mode, and be concise. I wasn't really able to play it. I played OpenFront like a year ago or something, so I don't really remember that much. But launch my star's game, click the tile to select it, drag from your tile to attack or reinforce. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, it did work. But the bots are too aggressive. The mechanics are very weird with the dragging. I don't like the dragging at all. Okay, so say the dragging is terrible. It should just be on click, just like the original OpenFront is. Clicking to a tile report. I like the UI. This doesn't feel vibe coded. I like the type application retail sounds. It is a bit interactive, but this doesn't. Okay, so it's better. Oh, let's look at the. Okay, we need to purchase like ports and stuff. Okay, he took it back. The mechanics are good, guys. Mechanics are good. I'm not really buying stuff. City graphics are kind of trash, but I'm impressed by this. It's pretty good. It did manage to do the OpenFront code. I had to fix some issues, but it works. Like I can
Okay, I've tried to shoot this video 3 times in the last week, and every single time I get stuck. And the reason I'm getting stuck is because the thing I'm trying to hand you is so simple that every time I try to make it sound as important as it actually is, it kind of comes out sounding like nothing. And the problem really is, it is nothing. And it's everything. It's the single most significant unlock I've found working with AI, and it takes about 30 seconds to explain. So you're out there waiting for the right tool, the right app, or the right workflow that finally looks like your actual work so that you can start getting real use out of AI. And while you're waiting, the answer is actually already sitting on your computer inside an empty folder. I call it the folder process, and I'm going to show you the whole thing right now. But I need you to stay past how simple it sounds, because behind that simplicity is something that has completely changed the way that I get work done. So let me just show you what it looks like. I'm not going to explain it first. I'm just going to go and do it. And it's going to seem like almost nothing. And that's fine, but hang on. Okay, so I've got a project folder here that I've kind of been working in. This is a home renovation project that I'm planning. I've got some contractors' bids, photos of the space, a rough budget I put together, and some notes with a conversation between me and my wife about what we really wanted out of this. And there's also a file right here that we'll get to in a second. But first I want to say I'm using Codex for these examples. I want to say this very clearly. If you are a ChatGPT subscriber, what I'm doing right here, you already have access to. Just get Codex CLI installed and then get started. So here we are in Codex. I'm going to ask it. We've got the contractor's bid back and it's higher than we budgeted. I need to figure out where we can cut scope without losing the things that actually matter to us. The kitchen island, the open floor plan. Those were the two things my wife was most firm on. Look through the bid and our budget in our conversation notes and tell me where there's flexibility. So the next thing I'm going to tell it, okay, do me a favor and save that as a file so that we can get back to it later. I can use this the next time I talk to the contractor. However, let me show you something first. So remember this file right here? Well, this is what the system read before I said a word. So when I started the new chat, it reads in this memory file first. So it already knew that this was a renovation project, what the budget really range is, where we left off last time, and I didn't have to explain any of that. I just started talking. So that's the folder process. You make a folder, you put your stuff in it, you talk to AI about it, and you save what matters. And you build up enough memory so that the next conversation that you have, it already knows what's going on before you even get started. And I know, hearing this, you're thinking, what, that's it? You spent a whole week trying to figure out how to explain this? And if this is all there really was, I probably wouldn't have spent a whole week trying. So stay with me. Have you ever had so much work in front of you that you just didn't even know how to get started on it? Well, I know you probably have, because we all do this. You've got people asking you 10 different things in 10 different places, and you've got far too much to deal with, and you just kind of stall. You get stuck. And I want to talk about why that happens, because I think there's something in here that most people don't realize about themselves. It's not that you don't know what to do. It's that you know too many ways to do it, right? Should I put this in a spreadsheet? Should I make a to-do list? Should I organize by person, priority by timeline? Should I write something out first? Should I call somebody? Should I try out a new tool that I've been hearing about? All of this. And every one of those paths leads somewhere genuinely different. And picking one means you're not picking the others. And it always takes time to figure out if the direction you're going is even the right direction. So you sit there, turning it over again and again, and you just stall. And the thing is, this isn't laziness, and it isn't some personal failing. This happens at every level to everyone. Every single time you face something that doesn't already have a shape to it. It's the paradox of basically having too many tools and not enough clarity on which one fits this particular problem, and it's everywhere. And nobody's talking about it, right? The folder process kills this. So that's what it solves on the surface. But what I showed you earlier, the folder and kind of the files and conversation that we were having, that's not really the folder process, not yet. That's just how it starts. So a little background. We've always shaped our work to fit our tools, always. Your team works the way it works because Jira is shaped a certain way. Your reports look the way they do because the reporting tool is shaped that way, right? The tool came first, and then we figured out how to cram our work into it. And for the first time, and I mean the first time ever, the shape of the work gets to define the tool, not the other way around. The tool gets built around your problem, on demand, right now, shaped exactly to what you're doing. What I showed you earlier, that was the lobby. Let me take you into the mansion, because this is not ChatGPT. This is not a chatbot. This is a workbot. And anything your computer can do, this thing can do. And if the tool it needs doesn't yet exist, it'll actually build it right there in your folder, and then it'll use it. Watch. So I've got 9 separate meeting notes here from the last month, and I need them as one document that I can actually read through, organized by date with a summary at the top. Okay, excellent. Done. Okay, let's plan a trip. I've got some hotel options, flight prices in here. Can you check my calendar for that week and figure out which combination actually works, what fits my schedule and my budget, and just give me some recommendations? Excellent. Can you save that to a file so that I can get back to it? Okay. Done. Okay, so let's start another one. I just got some new expenses in, so I'm going to flip over to my expenses folder here and let me get a chat started and say, I've got last month's expense reports in here. Did we go over budget anywhere? So it sees the spreadsheet artifacts here as expenses, but it doesn't have a local spreadsheet, and it realizes that spreadsheet lives in Google, so it needs to gain access to the Google Sheet. And so as you might be able to see, it doesn't have a way in here. We just have this one file with the expenses. It's starting to write some scripts to figure out if it can pull the information from Google directly using the credentials that I've previously used. That's it. It wrote this software. I don't even know what it did. Bob's your uncle. Done. But let's go just a little bit further than that craziness. You know what? I'd actually love to be able to see this as a visual, like a dashboard or a report I can pull up that shows me where every category stands against the budget, maybe with the overages highlighted. Okay, and 30 seconds ago, this did not exist. And here we are, and weirdly, I look like I've gone over budget on every single category. Right on track. I can come in here at any time and see this as a result, and actually the way it was built is if I put another file down here, it will do the full fetch and generate a brand new report for me. Awesome. Done. But okay, let's go even one further than this. I want this whole thing, the budget check, the report, all of it, just to run on the first of the month, so it's waiting for me when I get in. It's going to cron everything. It's going to run this every single month. I didn't write this. It did. And it's now completely automated. Done, 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 and done. And I could keep going. Anything you can think of, calling other systems, building tools that don't exist, creating reports, obviously scheduling jobs, automating things that you do every week. It can do all of them from inside an empty folder. There is no wall. It just keeps going. And if you're not asking it to do everything, you're not using it yet. And here's the thing. If you're not sure whether it can do something, ask. Just ask. That's how you find out. That's how I found out. Now think about what you just watched. Who did all of that? That wasn't one tool. That was a collection of experts. Researchers, engineers, writers, data analysts, even system builders. All from one conversation. And I keep saying ask because that's the actual unlock here. You don't have to know how any of it works. You don't have to know what APIs are available or how to write a script or how to set up automation. You need to know what you're trying to accomplish and be willing to describe it. That's it. The experts figure out the how. You've probably never had the experience of walking into a room full of people who are brilliant at completely different things and saying, here's my problem, and having them all push forward on it from every angle all at once. Well, that's what this is. You have a collection of experts sitting next to you, and you're the lead in that room. But where you apply your expertise is what matters. You don't need to be the one who knows JavaScript or deployments or data modeling or security. You need to be the one who knows what the work actually needs and be willing to ask for it. So here's what you have now. You have a way to work on anything, any problem, any shape, any size, without needing to pick a tool first. You don't need a better tool. You don't need someone to build the perfect AI that's shaped exactly like your work. You don't need to master 17 different platforms. You need a folder with some files in it and the willingness to start talking. And when you build something cool inside this process, and you will, resist the urge to turn it into permanent software that you try to maintain and ship to other people. The output here is the value, not any single thing that you build. If you want, hand off the knowledge of how the way this works, because that lasts a lot longer than any tool that you'll end up creating. So stop playing at the game of working. Stop wrangling tools. Stop waiting for someone else to build the